You'll hear that backend engineering hiring has dropped, but it didn't. If anything, roles have increased since AI, and backend engineering has gotten more popular because it's actually fractured and broken apart into 5 completely different jobs that you can currently apply for. And most of these jobs didn't have a name 18 months ago. So while most people are sitting there, refreshing LinkedIn, typing backend engineer into the search bar, the actual job roles right now are sitting somewhere else. They're sitting with a different name. So let me show you where the demand for backend engineering is and what they are called online so you can break into one. And P.S., they're all high paying. Starting with job number 1, which is the job that most people are not talking about, and I think it's probably the highest leverage role on the entire list. This role is called a Forward Deployment Engineer, FDE. Palantir invented the title a few years ago, and now I think every AI lab is currently hiring FDEs. Actually, my current role has kind of became an FDE for an AI technology that we're currently using. This role is mostly on site. There are remote ones, but I'd say most of them are the kind that you fly to a customer or client and you help implement that specific AI tool into their enterprise or team. So for example, let's say you work for OpenAI as an FDE. You might fly to some giant company and help them integrate code that makes the AI product actually deliver within their real world environment. You're kind of like a part engineer, but also part consultant because you're going to be dealing with the client directly. And what's really unique about the FDE role is it's really just an AI shop tool. You're going to be dealing with AI like crazy compared to other roles. And as we know, the whole software world is kind of heading into the AI direction. So being part of an AI job where your role is literally to help integrate AI puts you in a really good spot for this year and really the foreseeable future. So the job security for FDEs, I would say, is pretty high. I actually think it's probably one of the most futuristic, if that's even a good word to say, roles out there. And that's because you're dealing so much with current day artificial intelligence. You're going to be in this high percentile compared to others around you when it deals with utilizing large language models. All right, so now the second job, and probably the most popular one, is AI engineer. And when I say it's popular, it's like mega trending. It was listed as number 1 in the 2026 Job on the Rise report. It's the number 1 fastest growing job title in the country, with postings up 143% year over year in the last few years. Now, this would be the job I would say you should go after the most. And it's very, very similar to backend development, just with like an extra tier. What's interesting about the AI engineer posting is if you look through it, there's a lot of overlap with traditional backend. You might see API integration, maybe some design, like system design, maybe some Docker and Kubernetes, and maybe it's even talking about some cloud platforms. But then you're going to see like this extra 20%, which is creating RAG pipelines, maybe semantic modeling, agentic workflows, vector databases, and eval frameworks. All of these can sound scary up front, but if you already have a solid backend understanding, learning that next 20% isn't crazy difficult. Now, there definitely is a small learning curve, but it's not crazier than anything you haven't done before. So if you're a backend developer and you're searching for a new role and you can't find any backend development jobs that, really relate to what you like to do, or maybe a company you want to work for, I would 100% say look at AI engineer, because that's where a lot of people are going right now. I think it would be easier to break into that role. And I think there's a little bit more job security since AI is kind of taking over a lot of different areas right now. Now, where do you find roles like FDEs? Because if you're anything like me, we've probably been on LinkedIn way too much, clicking the easy apply button. But I would recommend not doing that, because I simply don't think it's work. I've never heard of a success story of someone getting a job because they clicked the easy apply on LinkedIn. So here's something new that I wish I had when I was looking for a role. Like right now, we tell developers to use AI for everything, right? We tell developers to write code with it, debug with it, learn with it, literally use it in every aspect of the job. But when we tell junior developers or other people that are looking for new roles, we tell them just to apply to all these different companies and to do everything by hand. And I've been there. I've had, multiple tabs open, submitting a resume, and then right after having to, for some reason, retype the name, email, and work history into a form after form, and then customize my resume for each company I was applying to. When trying to break into tech, that's by far the most repetitive work. And almost everyone still does it manually. So when Jobright reached out to sponsor this video, I actually wanted to try it because this is exactly the kind of work AI should be doing for you. So I started by creating a free account. It took me probably a minute. You start by filling out your job function, job type, and location. Then you upload your current, most updated resume and immediately starts analyzing it and finding ways to make it better. When I was brought to the home page, it literally told me that there was 12,212 roles that were available that fit me best. This was right after I updated my experience levels to senior. Ryan, Jobright's AI assistant, first asked me to generate a new custom resume. Jobright analyzed it and updated it for me. It restructured things so an ATS can actually read it, which brought my rating from a 5 to a 9 out of 10. And if you're new to this like me, when you apply online, a human is not the first thing reading your resume. Software is. If that software can't parse your resume, you're rejected before anyone ever sees your name. And that's not a skill problem. That's simply a resume formatting problem. Then came the dashboard. And this is the part that I like the most. Instead of me searching through job boards, Jobright surface roles that matched me directly to my actual background. Each one says location, it says the years of experience needed, and a lot of them also include the salary, which I thought was a really nice touch. And some interesting extras that they have are an agent, which does the job hunt for you, automatically applies to roles on your behalf. And they have coaching where you can literally hire a mentor to help you get the job. But here's my honest take. Jobright doesn't get you the job, right? You still have to interview well. You still have to know your stuff. What it does though is shrink the boring part, which is copying and pasting, the reformatting, applying, all the work that was never a test of your skill anyway. When you're applying for a role, your energy should go into interviews and conversations, and that's where jobs are actually won. There's a link in my description if you want to try it. The account I used was completely free, so there's no risk at all in seeing if it matches with you. Now, this next job is one that I'm actually quite interested in. It's called the Go-to-Market Engineer, GTM for short. Now, out of all of them, this is the most salesy role. You're gonna want to be kind of a mix of a solutions engineer, a solutions architect, and then also be able to combine that identity to sell a technical product. This role is going to be kind of wiring a lot of things together. You're probably going to run demos and help with the technical capabilities and sometimes even architect solutions because you are going to be the tech person of the sales team. Now, this role is fairly new. I don't know a ton about it. Now, I do know there's an increase in this. If you are a tech person who likes sales and is able to understand revenue and business impact quite well, this could be a really good spot for you. Now, additionally, I think this could be a really good spot for junior developers and people that are kind of more on the side of vibe coding. And that's because you're not so much sales that you're dealing with salespeople who have sales degrees, but you're also technical enough that you can create prototypes and demos and help with the automation of the sales side. You're kind of on this mixed ground where you help the salespeople sell by being their technical right hand and helping them build these proof of concepts and help wire everything together. So you're more or less sitting in the middle of a sales team, which I think is a really good spot to be in because sales is debatably the most important role in most companies. If you can't sell, you can't have a company. So I think being on the tech side of sales is a really good spot to be in. Now, this next job is a gold mine. Currently, I don't know if it will stay a gold mine forever, but it's very similar to how DevOps was extremely popular in 2015, and it's called LLM ops, so large language model ops. So similar to DevOps, you're going to be dealing with the ops side of large language models. So you're going to be dealing with prompted versioning, eval pipelines, latency and cost monitoring, guardrails for AI agents, observability for systems that give you different answers because large language models are not deterministic like normal systems are. And I guess that's a good point. Like where I was going is it's literally kind of like DevOps, but for non-deterministic applications, which is genuinely a completely different and probably harder problem than DevOps had, but it's definitely in the same realm. And this role is literally like really popular right now, mostly because the competition is like zero. Now, in the next few years, I think it's going to be a very important role because I think every company is going to have some kind of local model that they're shipping or integrating into their software, because if not, they're going to have to rely on the frontier models, and the frontier models can get quite pricey and they're not really control of the models 100%. So I do think that most large companies are going to have some kind of local model, whether it's good or not. That's maybe for a different video. I think they're going to have these local models that people are going to have to be in charge of, right? That's currently what large language models are, but I think they're going to spread to more roles. These LLM ops are going to spread to more roles and more companies because they're going to be having these local models that companies are needing to integrate and have within their enterprise and ecosystem. And truly, once you like really dive into the LLM ops, you'll see that it maps almost perfectly into backend and DevOps skills that you might already have. You might be doing CI/CD, containerization, monitoring dashboards. You might be doing all this stuff in normal ops, but also dealing with large language model ops to see if something's correct. Because like models aren't always right. Like it's right, I don't know, 87% of the time. I made that number up. But then you have to build the eval frameworks to even measure that. Most engineers have never once had to think that way, which is exactly why the ones who are currently learning it are currently getting paid kind of big bucks to do it. Now, before you think every good job in 2026 is some shiny new AI title with a fancy name, let me stop and defend the boring one, because I actually think it might be the smartest play for most people watching this. But maybe not. But I just feel like people don't give it love. And that's just good old traditional backend engineering. And it's not dead. It's not dying. It's changing because like the old way backend career was measured was exactly like one thing. Like how fast could you turn a requirement into working code? Maybe, create software or create system designs. But with an AI agent can now write code fairly quick. So I think the next skill that backend developers and all developers are going to really need to learn and lean into is system design and system architecture. Like this will be 100% requirement. If you want to break into the field right now, I don't care if you're junior, mid, senior staff, principal, whatever, system design is going to be the most desirable skill you can have in the world of AI agents. Second thing that I think is helping transform traditional backend, and it's actually helping with all the other roles as well, is something that I always think about. And that's how to properly parallelize tasks and then let the agents do it, like the coding work, while you are guiding them with guardrails and then finding efficiency gains and ways to review the solution that it produces. And I don't think that means like reviewing and reading all the code. Like there's a lot of people saying like, let the AI agents write the code and then you review all the code. I think it's creating code too quick. And with this, there's also a lot of talk about like spec-driven development. I'm not 100% sure that is the direction as of now. Like I know I created a video before about it, but I think what we need to do is continue iterating so much that these parallelized tasks are able to complete more and be more right at the same time. It's not just about like creating more work trees, and I don't know, but I don't really know what the answer is because we're all trying to figure that out together. But always remember that creating more code is not equal to always creating more value. Since code has gotten cheaper, what is being built is even more important. There are new skills that are currently getting built on top of traditional back-end engineering. And there's all these roles that we just went over that are getting created simultaneously. But I don't think we know what the next skill set is needed yet for software development. We're all still trying to figure that out together. But one thing I do know for sure is that it's very important to try and stay up to date on where we currently are in the process of software and keeping up with the current trends and exploring and trying to figure all of this kind of stuff out. Because one thing I can promise you is that the people who are going to win in the next few years are going to be the ones who are on the top like 99.9 percentile on how to utilize agents, because that's fundamentally changing how software is built. So the takeaway with you, these are the new roles, and just keep learning, because that's where we are right now. There's so much chaos and so many new things happening that the only thing you can do is keep learning. So until next time.